Hey everyone, welcome to our chapter on schizophrenia and affective disorders. First up, we're going to talk about schizophrenia. So let's do an intro to schizophrenia. So schizophrenia is a mental health disorder that affects about 1% of the world's population. That might seem like a small number, but it's a small percentage of a very big number, so it's a lot of people. This carries, in addition to, of course, the enormous emotional and physical toll, it carries an enormous monetary cost for society. Schizophrenia means split mind, but it does not mean a split personality, as you often see in popular depictions in media. It's not multiple personalities, it's meant to be more of a split from reality, a dissociative sort of situation. Schizophrenia is marked by disordered thoughts, delusions, hallucinations, and bizarre behaviors. We can group these into positive, negative, and cognitive symptoms. So here's our organization system. So again, like most things, positive and negative don't mean good or bad, they mean additive or subtractive. So things that are added to the standard human experience are considered positive symptoms. Things that take away from the standard human experience are considered negative symptoms. And things that change the way that normal thought processes are undergoing is called cognitive symptoms. So first up, positive. These are things like hallucinations, disordered thought, or delusions. Things that are added to the human experience. So hallucinations are perceptions that don't have a sensation, right? So things that are perceived that are not present. Thought disorders is kind of complicated. We'll talk about that more later on. Delusions are sort of perceptions of these persistent thoughts that don't change in response to contradictory evidence. So common delusions are persecution, that someone's out to get them or that someone's trying to victimize them. Grandeur, the idea that they are somehow important or gifted or the only one that can do something. And control, that they're somehow being manipulated or controlled by an outside force, be that governmental agencies or aliens or what have you. Under negative, we have flattened emotional response or flat affect, sort of displaying muted emotional reactions to things. Poverty of speech means talking less and saying fewer words. A lack of initiative and persistence. Anhedonia is a lack of perception of pleasure or seeking of pleasure. And social withdrawal is less interest in social situations. Cognitive symptoms include difficulty paying attention, low psychomotor speeds, so slow movements, trouble initiating, that sort of thing. Deficits in learning and memory, as well as poor abstract and problem solving. So with most people, schizophrenia onset occurs at the end of adolescence or early adulthood. Symptoms typically appear gradually over a period of 3 to 5 years. The usual order these things arrive is a negative first, followed by cognitive. Positive symptoms follow several years later. That's not how it always happens, but that's typically the order of onset. Schizophrenia is a highly heritable disorder with an occurrence rate of about 1% in the general population. Generally speaking, the more genetic material you share in common with someone with schizophrenia, the more likely you are to develop it. So the concordance rate for identical twins is about 48%, which is very high, but it's not 100%, right? Which means that it's not all genetics. There's some environmental interaction. There's a lot of speculation as to what in the environment can trigger a psychotic episode, be that stress or certain use of certain substances or certain environments. It's not totally sure. That said, there's a very strong genetic component. The less genetic material in common, the less concordance there is, right? So fraternal twins show about 17% concordance compared to the fraternal twins, 48. And then on down the line, right? If you have a parent with schizophrenia, you have about a 6% chance, a sibling about 9% chance, uncle and aunt about 2% chance, all the way down to 1%, which is the risk in the general population. This has led to the susceptibility hypothesis, the idea that you may carry the genes rendering you vulnerable to develop schizophrenia, but you may not develop it unless you encounter a certain trigger in your environment. If this was true, we would expect some people to carry a schizophrenia gene but not express it, that is, have the genetic predisposition but never become schizophrenic themselves. So if nothing in your environment triggers it, you never develop the disorder. For example, a non-schizophrenic member of a pair of monozygotic twins that are discordant for schizophrenia. So what that would mean is you have a pair of twins, one has schizophrenia, one does not, and we're looking at the non-schizophrenic twin. So if we take populations like that and look at the children of monozygotic and fraternal twins that are discordant for schizophrenia, we would expect there to be a difference in the heritability of that, or I guess the expression of schizophrenia in their children. If this is indeed correct, if you inherit a susceptibility for a disease and not the disease itself, if the susceptibility hypothesis is correct, we should see no difference in the schizophrenia rate in children of monozygotic twins, right? So if we have monozygotic twins with identical genetic makeups, we would expect that the children of the schizophrenic and non-schizophrenic twins, those children would have identical risk. So let's see what the data says. Indeed, that's exactly what's observed, that no significant difference in the rate of schizophrenia in the offspring of monozygotic twins. The non-schizophrenic member of the fraternal twin is significantly less likely to have children with schizophrenia, however. So that shows that there is indeed a strong genetic component here. So here we have monozygotic twins, that is, they are genetically identical. One twin is schizophrenic, one twin is not. Here we have the percentage of offspring that shows schizophrenia. So the percentage of children from the schizophrenic twin showing schizophrenia is 16.8% compared to 17.4% in the non-schizophrenic twin. This is a non-significant difference, which means both twins carry the gene. However, in dizygotic twins, who on average share 50% of the genetic material, the schizophrenic twin, 17.4% of their offspring display schizophrenia, but looking at non-schizophrenic members of this dyad, dizygotic twins, only 2.1%. There's a significant difference, suggesting that the non-schizophrenic twin seldom carries the gene. So what does this tell us? Well, it supports the idea that one can carry a schizophrenia gene without becoming schizophrenic. So you may carry a predisposition to this disorder, but you may not develop it without encountering the appropriate environmental trigger. This still means that you pass on the same risk to your children because you carry that same gene, just you never encountered the trigger yourself in your life. Okay, that's it for our little introduction to schizophrenia. I'll